Mm. Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each of the episodes against each other. Today's episode is No Game, No Life, episode 11, Killing Giant. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of what happened within this episode. We begin the episode with Sora and Shiro coming out of their trauma episode when they hear say that it is a fictional world that was popular with the Werebeast youth at the Eastern Federation, and that it just happened to coincidentally look like Tokyo but wasn't Tokyo. He then lists some games that take place in, I guess, Tokyo in the real world, and basically brings Shiro out of it, telling her it's just like these games. As long as we're in a game, we'll be fine. And they then get ready to play. Then explains the rules, how it's a shooting game, and they lose ammo when they shoot. However, when they shoot an NPC, they then gain ammo from the NPC dying, or love power, as, explains it. And the goal of the game essentially is to either make Izuna fall in love with them, or Izuna has to make all four of them fall in love with her by shooting them. We then have them beginning to play the game, and there are some near misses, but it is realized that as they're fighting Izuna, they're doing very well. Shiro is calculating the trajectory of all the bullets, and Izuna is only able to survive that because of her increased reflexes. And then Jabril ambushes her outside in a coordinated plan. Sora on another building snipes it, but then somehow Izuna knows that it's coming, and it's realized by Kurumi and Fi who are watching that the werebeasts are cheating, and then it is revealed that Ino is telling Izuna where they are, and also therefore it's implied that he warned her about the shot as well, and due to their increased hearing, Shiro, Sora, Stephanie, and Jabril, I guess, aren't able to hear, but Izuna is. Which I do wonder at because I'm pretty sure, like, Jabril, isn't she like a war machine? I'm pretty sure she would have increased senses too, but I guess hers are lesser than the werebeasts, and she can't hear Ino's orders or anything like that. They then hide to regroup, but Izuna finds them immediately because Ino told her where they were. And so they go to a park where Shiro starts calculating everything that she can and ultimately determines that it is Kuhaku who is the answer, her and Sora together, and then she pretends to get hit by Izuna and ends up chasing Sora. Sora sends Jabril to go ahead and buy time by facing Izuna. And we then see basically at the end of this episode, it's revealed that Shiro was faking it. It was part of their plan. And then they work together with Jabril while they're falling from the sky to basically get Izuna. However, Izuna finally accepting that a game is fun because she didn't consider it fun due to the fact that if she were to lose, that would be a negative impact on her country. Likewise, if they were to lose, how can they find it fun? Because then all of those people that they are responsible for would be unhappy. But she finds herself having fun in spite of herself. And at the very end of the episode, the cliffhanger we get left on is her using the blood break ability to presumably get away from the bullets. So we just see her activating the blood break and then it's to the credit scene. So that is where we left. Now that we have been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank on our two ranking lists, the mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values, and then the personal ranking list, which is my opinion on the episode. All right, so for our mostly objective rank values, we have a +2 for our supporting character growth, and this is, as mentioned in the summary, Izuna starts the episode feeling like she can't have fun with games. Like Sora, as he's sitting there next to her, asks her, "When was the last time you had fun playing a game?" And throughout the episode, she's constantly flashing back to his words and is angry at herself for his words having an impact, because in her mind she can't enjoy the games, because if she enjoys them and she loses, again, that would be her country would lose territory. The people of her country living in that territory would then become subjects of whoever she lost to. And in most cases in this world, that would lead to them being unhappy. Likewise, she is kind of appalled at Sora for thinking that a game could be fun, or for having fun while he's playing with his group, because if he was to lose, then all of humanity would basically lose their status, become subordinates of the Eastern Federation, and be unhappy. And by the end of the episode, because they're challenging her so, like they're pushing her so far in their challenge, she comes to find that she is in fact having fun. She's smiling despite herself, or in spite of herself, and at the end, she, even as she's activating the blood break, says that this is so much fun, like she's having so much fun. So that shows an emotional growth of the character. We also get to see her using the blood break skill that we had learned about the last time. Additionally, there is 4 points for world building, which is where we get to see the game and the rules of the game being revealed and get to see them playing in the game. And again, I believe I said the rules briefly in the summary, but essentially what the game is the goal of Sora's side is to shoot Izuna and make her fall in love with them. And Izuna's goal is basically a harem end, where she has to shoot all 4 of them and make them fall in love with her. In the meantime, because every time they shoot, they lose love power, the way to replenish that love power is to get the NPCs, which when they shoot an NPC, the NPC turns into ammo, which recharges their gun, their love gun. And then it's also revealed as a side note that if the NPCs touch them, they will drain the power from their guns, and that could leave them with 0 ammunition and 0 ability to defend themselves or fight. So that is also a point. And even if Izuna does manage to shoot one of them, as long as they can then, one of the others can shoot them, that will reverse and they will return to their side. So there is that opportunity to save a fallen comrade as well. And that is kind of what Shiro uses to trick Izuna into thinking that she was on her side. Is she faked getting hit by one of Izuna's bullets so that she then hunted Sora, but in reality, she was never actually on their side, which is how they are able to catch Izuna off guard when she comes to hunt them. So that would be the world building aspect, the game rules. Because it's a game that doesn't exist in reality, I would consider that world building for the reality of this world, which brings us to 6 points. However, there was a -2 points for negative messaging or behavior, and this of course has to do with Ino's cheating. Even if they're not cheating with like the coding of the game or anything like that, he's still using their increased senses to feed Izuna information that he can see on the screens that she couldn't see while in the game, in order to save her from Sora's sniping, as well as letting her know where she can find her opponents so that she doesn't have to look through the whole city, which is cheating that they can't 100% prove, which is what Kurumi and Fiel kind of talk about to each other as they're watching, how they know that there's cheating, they know what the cheating is, but they don't have definitive proof. Like they can't prove he's speaking to her because they can't hear it. And this, of course, then leads to them not being able to call it out with the commandments and achieve a default win. But the fact that it exists there at all is, of course, a negative messaging or behavior, minus the 2, which then leaves this episode as a 4 out of 10 episode objectively. All right, so for our series ranking so far and our mostly objective ranking, we have the current ranking list with beginner in first, grandmaster, challenger, interesting, fake end, expert, sacrifice, blue rose. This episode came in ninth, killing giant, then skywalk, and currently last is weak square. Now, I completely disagree with the result for the objective list, but that's why I have 2 lists. I really liked this episode. I felt like it was very engaging from beginning to end. It started picking up where the last one left off with their little trauma episode and them coming out of it, which was just very funny, especially how they had to rationalize it to themselves to come out of it because the real world. Oh, Sora even has a line where he's basically like, "Oh, this is a game. No wonder I can be out in the sunlight." Because normally he was a shut-in, so he couldn't have been out in the sun. That would have been very difficult for him. So I found that whole scene just as funny as when it ended the last episode, starting this episode. Then we, of course, go into the rules. And while they're testing out the rules, they're obviously giving us as the audience visual examples of the rules. And so they get into a few shenanigans with making each other fall in love with each other, using Stephanie kind of as the uh I'm trying to think of the nice word for it. Well, let's just say she gets the short end of the stick on their experimentation. Um, well, that in itself is also funny in its own way. And then we get to see them actually get serious on the game, and then we see them basically in a perfectly coordinated and synced up attack. They're fighting each other. Well, not each other, but Izuna, and they're working together to do so. It starts with Shiro being able to dodge Izuna's bullets despite Izuna's increased senses, as well as calculate her own so that Izuna is constantly having to dodge. And it impresses Izuna because she thinks it's impossible that, like, Shiro can, like, stand completely still while all of her bullets ricochet around her, missing her completely because she's so good at the control. And then, of course, she just gets scared of Shiro, jumps out the window. When she jumps out the window, Jabril's falling down from the sky, ready to attack her. And then, if not for Ino's warning, she wouldn't have known that Sora then was over there sniping her so far away that her senses wouldn't have been able to pick him up. And that would have been the end of the game right there, which was a really brilliant opening to the game. High tension, high stakes, all that. And then, of course, that fails, which is when we get the aside with Kurumi and Fiel talking about how they realize that there's cheating and how they're cheating. We then get their not supposition, their hypothesis confirmed with hearing Ino tell Izuna that they're in the tunnel underneath her, so she breaks down while they're trying to gather their breath. They then, of course, manage to run away. They head to the park. While they're at the park, Shiro's doing all these calculations. Jabril is losing confidence, and Sora is trusting Shiro. Shiro then comes to her conclusion to make the plan, but of course they can't communicate this because could hear it through the screen and then tell Izuna. So she basically flips the script on Sora from when he was playing his game against Kurumi, basically saying, "Do you trust me? It's your turn now to trust me." And that is when she then pushes Sora out of the way of Izuna's attack and fakes getting hit on it herself. Again, it's revealed later that she just let a button of hers get hit, so she didn't never actually switch sides. But she fakes switching sides. Jabril grabs Sora, they go away. Sora's like, "Nope, I know for a fact that Shiro has a plan. She left the equation at the end blank," which of course represents them. And then, of course, he sends Jabril to buy time with Izuna, and we get to see kind of some epic effects on screen of Jabril's darker side of when she was a war machine from back in the day. And then, She runs Izuna off, but Sora and Shiro at this point are together. Sora fakes shooting Shiro, but again just loses a piece of her clothing. And then they work together with Jabril, who's behind, or rather above, Izuna, and Jabril and them both shoot at the same time. The bullets collide in midair. One ricochets back down onto Izuna, which she can't dodge, which is when she exclaims that the game is so fun, and she does her blood break, which again is a very, very effective visual on screen. And then we get our cliffhanger, which of course is amazing. So from beginning to end, the entire episode was very engaging. They had clever moves. There was a lot of back and forth. It was building up the tension and setting up for a win. And just as they're about to win twice, it's pulled away. I enjoyed this episode immensely. I liked it. That is why I gave it for myself a 10 out of 10 rather than the objective 4. I give it a 10 out of 10, which puts it into first place on our personal ranking: Killing Giant, then Interesting, Grandmaster, Beginner, Expert, Fake End, Sacrifice, Challenger, Weak Square, Skywalk, and currently last place is Blue Rose. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked No Game, No Life, Episode 11, Killing Giant. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I will see you in the next episode.